Greetings all and sundry. This is the Brain Software Podcast, episode 256, and we're coming at you from the hypnotic world epicenter, Toronto, Canada. I'm Chris Thompson, and today Mike Mandel and I are going to discuss a ton of cool stuff about hypnosis, so stay tuned, and here's your disclaimer.
Disclaimer. We keep hearing from some of you, and we keep answering as well. But regardless of what we say, just pay attention to what you are doing. And to those who are intent on shutting us down because we say Loochie so much, here's my question to all of you. Can you really stop us? Can you stop us at all?
Hey, Bridge Cloud, what's going down, Scroll? I just spent about 6 trillion hours listening to Randlesham Pouch. It's totally dope. Up here in level 42, it's all we ever have playing during dinner time. Can you dig it, Bag? I've been jonesing to say this, so I will. In the words of Barlow Downey and the Cheese Cutters, whatever happened to that old peace and love we used to know before the world went goofy in the loony bin, Scroll?
Loochie! There we go. So please welcome to the hypnotic center of the universe, a man who's recently become a huge fan of Jamie Johnson. An unstoppable force in the creation of custom GPTs that might be kind of hilarious. And I'm not saying that it isn't because we've forgotten to forget to remember that he has never denied not being accused of being the Keith Richards of hypnosis. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Mandel.
So I started doing with the arms up here. I think it brings in all sorts of things. That's a big Loochie.
If you're only listening to the audio version, you're missing out
so much.
Oh, man. Okay, so let's just give you a quick overview of what's to come.
What's coming up, buddy?
We're going to be talking about all kinds of cool things. Hippolyte Bernheim's Amnesia method, the Babinski reflex as it I'm not, what am I trying to say here?
We're talking about the Babinski reflex,
and
yes.
age regression in hypnosis. We're going to talk about some non-hypnotic things too, standing your ground in situations
without being a dick.
Without being a dick. And can you hypnotize chickens?
Can you hypnotize them at all?
I knew you were going to say that. That's so great.
Fantastic.
There's going to be some really good stuff in here. So, all right, let's talk about what's going on in the world of Mike Mandel hypnosis.
What's coming up?
We've got Foundations Live coming up in July. You'll see a link in the description under this video in YouTube, and we'll make sure in the show notes. But basically, Foundations Live is our 8-week live on Zoom, 1 hour and a half a week. For 8 weeks, we'll take you from knowing nothing to being really confident in the basic skills of hypnosis.
So able to work with clients live and with Zoom.
Yeah.
Not afraid to just jump in and deal with people.
If you just want to get confident doing hypnosis and not having to rely on all those dursative scripts and those horrendously long progressive muscle relaxations that bore people into trance, learn how to do it properly. Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy is the online version, the Foundations Live hybrid. We bring you the Zoom live training experience. At the end of 8 weeks, you'll actually be confident doing this stuff. I kid you not. That's what's happening every time we do a cohort.
You said that's what's happening.
That's what's happening, like it's a pizza. Okay, so July, check it out, MikeMandelHypnosis.com. You can click on the events page, you can get more details. Beautiful. Let's move on. We've got our by the time we go, when does this go live? We're going live. Oh, this publishes June 14th, according to my notes.
Right.
So we'll have been through the Architecture of Hypnosis that for us, as of recording, happens in 1 week and a bit. But it'll be long gone by the time you guys are listening to this. So the class that'll be coming up for you in Toronto is the November 11th through 15th. I said that weird.
And people are booking seats already.
It's just about halfway full right now. We only take about 40-ish students, and it'll be sold out. It's moving fast. So MikeMandelHypnosis.com, I guess, /events, and you'll find the link.
And what about, Chris, let's just add this. If you have trained with us live before in Toronto, and you've done our practitioner, our hypnosis practitioner, general practitioner training, you're an excellent hypnotist. If you want to do the master training, which I do at John Grinder style, you repeat the course, but at a deeper level of understanding. You have covert outcomes. I work with you secretly and teach you secretly. We and we're going to say it now, the number, because it's going to stay at this forever.
Only 6 spots.
7.
You want to make it 7?
No, it's 7 this time.
Oh, okay.
The reason why is one person
accidentally
can run the exercise while the other 6 break into 3 groups of 2 or 2 of 3.
So that'll be the maximum. We've
Max is 7.
We've had a real growth in the number of people who want to come back and do the class again at the master level. So I had to institute like application only, unfortunately, because we have to say no to some people. If 10 people want to take it or 12 people want to take it, we can't do it.
First come, first serve.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, there you go. There is your little
November,
promo
starting on the
material.
11th.
So let's move on to our think tank words.
Oh my F.
Will work their way into the content and then the main content of the podcast. We've got a lot of good stuff here.
So let's start with first word is, I'm going to go through them all, then we'll deconstruct them all. Reinforcement. The second one is ground. And the third one is science.
I love it. Well,
science!
Starting with science reminds me of us driving around town with the window open in the summer.
And yelling,
and just
science!
Somebody's walking their dog.
Thomas Dolby.
Point and yell, science, exactly. It's just hilarious.
Blinded me with science.
Yeah, so when I think about science, I'm going to think about things are fluid. What we think is truth next decade maybe isn't so true anymore. We learn, we evolve. So that idea is true for everything in life. What we think we're expert in now. When I was a kid, I thought I knew everything. You know, my mom and dad were stupid.
Yeah. And it turns out my parents, they were wrong. They were right about everything.
My kids think I'm stupid. Whatever.
You're right about everything.
You're going to learn. Science evolves. Things evolve. You will learn. Adapt.
But having said that, let's look at this ontologically for a minute. You're not by any means saying that reality changes or truth changes.
No,
it's talking about understanding.
Our beliefs and our discoveries change.
I was glad to see the back of those leeches. I'll tell you that. Tony Hancock. That was
okay. So what else you get out of science?
Well, so you started with the last one, which is
I know it's weird. I'm going backwards.
Science, is time travel going to be happening? I don't know.
I have no idea.
As I speak to you, I'm on a spacecraft heading to Io.
You created a custom GPT.
HAL 9000. It thinks that we're on the same spacecraft. It's the computer. It thinks it's sentient.
Well, it doesn't think. It's been told to act as if.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but it thinks it's sentient.
Okay. Because you told it to.
Yes. It acts as though it believes it is. But it's science. Science is exploding. 99% of all the scientists who have ever lived are alive today.
By the way, so speaking
did you know that?
No, I did not know that. 99%. I was ignoring you because I was planning my next thought. I admit it, so it's okay.
I'd say probably might be 95, but about 95% of all the hypnotists who have ever lived are alive today.
All right. I want to mention this too. Maybe by the time this podcast gets out, I'll have already done this. Wouldn't that be freaking cool?
Yeah.
But speaking of GPTs, so OpenAI has... ChatGPT Plus was the required subscription to use custom GPTs, which you can train on interesting things. But now anyone can use them as of this Monday when they made their announcement. So I want to make a GPT that is trained on our hypnotic language cards and make it free so everyone can use it and just play hypnotic language card games
free
with an AI chatbot. Yeah, free.
Okay, we should not,
cool?
clearly should not have given this man control of the purse strings.
Anyway, so that's good. Okay, we're science. We spent a lot of time on science.
So we're talking about expanding. We're talking about learning. We're talking about bringing that back to hypnosis. That's why so many hypnotists are alive today. The art and science of hypnosis has grown, and reinforcement. The way we maintain our learning is by reinforcement. So right now, preparing for Architecture of Hypnosis. This is Thursday. A week Monday it starts. We do it twice a year, and every year I sharpen the blade twice, which means I power read. It used to be about 30 books. It's now about 45, and I've just ordered 9 hypnosis texts I did not have.
Like that.
Things like Abetz Taplin and people like that.
Yeah, which we're going to talk about. All right, so I really like this word reinforcement, the way you're using it. So this science, we spent too much time on. Reinforcement and ground. Those are our 3 words again. So reinforcement, I really like this. It makes me think about, let's say, any skill that you become really, really skilled at, guitar playing, hypnosis, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There is a sense that you need to continue practicing to reinforce the level you're at. If I stop playing guitar, which I've unfortunately done for a while now,
lose your calluses.
Yeah, I lose my abilities, or I don't make forward progress. So this, I think, reinforcing the momentum and the status that we have in knowing something, the skill level that we have to continue to reinforce that skill.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
A good example
whether
of
you're building some sort of psychological A-frame, or just strapping something up.
Well, I'll give you a quick example, just in terms of having a 25-year break from something. So when I was a kid / early teenager, I played some baseball, right? And I played in the outfield. That was always my position. And I could catch any fly ball, no problem, because I could run. I could figure out where it's going to land. I could be there and catch it. So 25 years later, I haven't played baseball in a long time. Moved here to Port Perry, joined the men's slow pitch league, which is a hitting.
What socks do you wear?
So easy to hit the ball. Anyway, I'm in the outfield. I can't catch anything, Mike, because I've not maintained, I've not reinforced my ability to.
Oh, but you'd get it back, because I think there is a residual. You'd get it back.
I did get it back now, but it took a while because.
So your brain is back to doing calculus again.
Yeah,
you're figuring
exactly.
the arc and the rate.
Yeah, heuristic approach.
Yeah. Nice.
All right.
Now, what about ground?
Ground. Well, I think about. Ground, obviously, surface support, normal force in physics. My daughter's taking grade 11 physics, so I'm teaching her all about forces and stuff. And when you apply a force to ground, it applies a force back. So there's
equal and opposite.
Yeah, there you go.
So
Newton's
now we have to Dracularize these. Now I'm saying reinforcement.
Well, what do you get out of ground before you go?
Well,
okay, Draculize
being well grounded. I'll Draculize it right away. Ground to hole in the ground to grave to Dracula.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Reinforcement.
Ground to electrical short circuit to electrocution to death to Dracula.
That's one more step, I think. What about reinforcement? I think reinforce a coffin by nailing it shut to Dracula.
There you go. All right.
What about science?
To science, to vampires aren't actually real, to Dracula.
Okay, that's almost a flip. I'm going to accept that just for its sheer cleverness. Okay, let's get into our stellar content.
All right,
here.
we got to talk about
Hippolyte Bernheim.
Buddy, let me set this up for you.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned to me you were on. Here's our promo for Voxer, the coolest app on the iPhone in the world.
Yes.
We've been using it for years,
yes,
right?
we have.
And have we ever talked about how we have to start a conversation on Voxer?
No, I think we should say that, though.
Yeah, we always have to start our conversations, even if we're in public, saying...
So it's a CB radio.
Breaker Balzay.
Without the word Balzay, Ballzay, Z-A-Y, you cannot get access. So somebody can say, oh, I need to meet you on Friday. Can we do this? And I say... Communication disengaged, no password.
Password missing, access denied. Yeah.
Access denied.
So we'll be Breaker Balzay all day long. Anyway.
What I love is Carl Smith's doing that in England now with guys. Breaker Balzay, Breaker Balzay.
It's infectious. It really is quite funny. So, in a good way, though. It's a different sort of infectious. We'll talk about that later. News. All right, so Hippolyte Bernheim, had discovered something interesting about counting out of hypnosis and amnesia. Talk about this.
Okay, well, Bernheim wrote Suggestive Therapeutics in 1809, not 1909. He came out of the 1800s. He got a lot of his work from Braid.
Okay.
But Bernheim, being a neurologist, not urologist, worked with Lebo. Together, they set up the Nancy School in France. And they did amazing work. I'm just reading Suggestive Therapeutics. I've not read it in a long time. But as medical doctors, even though it's 120 years ago, close to that, they did such stellar research work. Bernheim came up with some great stuff, which I love. And this was something he began experimenting with. And I'm going to be doing this at Architecture of Hypnosis
with alarming
master
frequency.
Students. We're going to see what happens.
Okay.
So he said he's done this with numerous people, highly intelligent people, and it seems to work pretty well all the time. He put someone in a deep trance. Although, to be fair, Bernheim made some mistakes, but we'll get to that. He got somebody in a deep trance, and then he would say to them, you will come out of trance by counting yourself out from 1 to 10. When you get to 10, you'll be wide awake.
Did they do it out loud or in
out
their
loud?
Head? Okay.
So they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, open their eyes. And would immediately, when he asked them about it, they would forget. They'd have amnesia for all kinds of stuff that had just happened.
Including the counting.
But this is what made it more interesting. He got them counting when they were wide awake and still forgetting it. So he'd say to them, okay, the next person, he'd say, okay, you're going to count out loud from 1 to 10. When you reach 6, you will awaken, but you'll keep counting. So they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And he'd say to them, why are you counting? And they go, I don't know.
So this is post-hypnotic suggestion that happens immediately.
Yeah.
Normally a post-hypnotic suggestion, like you awaken someone from a stage hypnosis show, and they are in the audience, they think the show hasn't started, and they only remember everything the moment they step through the bathroom door.
Right.
In this case, the time gap between the amnesia and the triggering event is just 0.
Yeah, and that's it. I find it very interesting. I need to analyze this in some depth because they are counting themselves out of a deep trance. So at some point, it's moving from continuance of suggestion into post-hypnotic,
Yes.
just from between
Just
6 and 7. And he said they can have said it a tenth of a second ago, and he said they still will not remember
Yeah.
it. Like, they don't even know why they're counting. This is lovely stuff.
Well, I suppose
clever.
it kind of makes sense in that memory is in many ways digital. You either remember the thing or you don't.
But then whether you remember it or not, there's going to be the analog aspect.
Yeah.
You know, the details that are brought in. The
That is
submodalities
really-
again.
that is
Yeah, so
really
we'll be
cool.
experimenting with that.
I'll bring in on future podcasts some of the stuff that is coming up in Milton Erickson's collected papers of
Yeah.
Milton H. Erickson. Some fascinating stuff that he did so many interesting things. Like he took on any challenge. Ah, fantastic. Okay.
Excellent.
So we got that. This is another one. You and I were
He
talking
took
about
on any
this.
challenge.
Yeah, he would pretty
So-
much. Yeah.
So maybe he'd be able to help you.
It's so funny. That's a good.
It just implies some horrific thing that cannot be mentioned.
I really like your latest intervention where you do, we call it the smug, like being smug about
correction.
something. The smug correction, which is nonsensical. Like it makes no
Something
sense.
you know nothing about, but you're still
like
correcting
we
the
were
guy.
talking about your Mac, right?
Yeah.
And or no, mine. My
Your
Mac
Mac.
did something weird. It had nothing to do with the Mac itself. It was the actual app that went wonky. And you said, "Oh, you need to clean my Mac." And I said, "No, Mike. It's not the Mac. It's the app."
And I said, "Oh,"
and you said, "Oh, it's the Mac."
It's the Mac. Like, so I'm privy to some hidden
As if you
information.
know.
It's ridiculous.
was
But we
so
admit it, so it's okay. Okay.
All right. What is the Babinski reflex? Well, I know what it is, but for our audience, I'm going to ask you, what is the Babinski reflex and what interesting thing did people discover about it when doing hypnotic age
Okay,
regression?
so first of all, there's a lot to discuss here. The Babinski reflex is one of the tests that is given to a newborn baby. The pediatrician will run his thumbnail or her thumbnail up the sole of the baby's foot, and the Babinski reflex causes the big toe to separate from the others. It sort of flexes backwards. They have the Babinski reflex till they're maybe a year, 18 months old. After that, it switches to the plantar reflex. Whereas if I run my thumb up the sole of your foot, or let me change that. If Chris Thompson runs his thumb up the sole of your foot, and then you respond in kind, your feet will curl instead towards the thumbnail. Okay, so this is a natural growth and neurological process. I heard a long time ago in Derek Bomber's class, and I think it was Dabney you, and I'm still trying to track this down. He talked about the Babinski reflex returning. When someone is in a deep trance, somnambulistic trance, is regressed to maybe a year old,
you say
5 months old.
somnambulistic
No, I
trance?
did
No.
not. No, I did not. Man who can never be corrected. Freaking, you know who I mean. Anyway, not me. I'm talking about somebody else. But when you regress someone to maybe 5 months old, and you have to have a method of bringing them back because they become pre-verbal, they're not really regressing, but they're responding as though they regressed. I agree.
Neurologically
Yeah,
acting as though they were. Are you
Right.
okay? Is it
Yes,
okay?
this
Yeah.
is just like jumping at me. Like
Is it a
Jack the
little too-
freaking jumper.
Is it a little too stiff?
Might be.
All right.
We'll edit that out, Loochie. So here's the thing. I heard about this. In fact, Steve McGarvey and I had a discussion on this too. And interestingly, I tested it in Derek Bomber's class when Michael C. Anthony was there too.
This would have been back in the 90s. Then,
yeah,
right?
mid-1990s.
Yeah. And there are papers talking about this that we found on.
Right. Well, we're getting to that.
Okay.
But it's such an important subject. So anyway, I tested it in the class with someone who didn't know what I was doing. He didn't say, we're going to see if the Babinski reflex. No, there was no pre-frame, nothing. Just put a deep trance. I think it was on one of the breaks. And Babinski, the big toe moves out. Amazing. Bring the person back. Plantar reflex is there. That convinced me. But then I started reading papers online saying, oh, there's no proof. There's no. Now, you must remember, I don't agree with a lot of these researchers because when my friend Arthur Perlini got me into the American Psychological Association symposium on hypnosis, and Arthur is a psychologist, he sneaks me into this thing. And I said, what kind of hypnosis will they be doing?
They
He
won't
said,
be
they won't
doing
be doing any. I said, what are you talking about? It's about hypnosis. He said, no, they won't take a chance on it not working in front of their peers. They'll talk about hypnosis. That's exactly what they did. You get a lot of, this is only my opinion, you get a lot of Enneagram 5s who write in tiny, tiny print, talk this stuff to death and don't actually do hypnosis. So when I went through the study that said, there is no evidence, I looked at the sample size. Now, first of all, these are extremely small samples they're working with. And secondly, what kind of hypnosis have they used? How do they know the person is in a
So you're
sufficiently
saying
deep trance? What are they?
small sample size and perhaps crap hypnotists.
That's what I didn't want to say, but he said it
All
for
right,
me.
not saying it.
Being
Which
a
is-
researcher
you know
doesn't
what?
mean you're a frickin' good hypnotist. Sorry, guys, but it's something called science.
Yeah, which is, another going back to when we did an episode on how we disagreed with David Spiegel about certain things about hypnotizability, but there are a lot of things we did agree with.
Well, yes.
And we did that in another video.
Thank you, Enneagram.
And you know what? So at least there you go. Here's someone who's an academic who does a heck of a lot of hypnosis. So at least,
yeah. Well,
I don't know if they so that's great. So if you're going to be academic about it, at least do a lot of it.
But I do like him. I think he does great work. We're still softening that point. It just, we disagreed on one point. But this whole thing, so now I'm saying I have seen the Babinski reflex return without the person knowing what it was. I have seen the papers that say it doesn't. I'm attempting to find the Dabney Ewan thing. If it was him, it might have been David Cheek. But
if you find it, send it to us.
The bottom line is, I'm uncertain now. I don't know, but I have seen it happen. So I might test it with my master hypnotist or something in the class.
There you go. All right.
So cool. Thank you.
So we're going to move a little bit away from formal hypnosis now.
How do you stand your ground without being a dick? I watched, let me give you a pre-frame here. I watched on YouTube, and I took a break from all my study.
Yeah.
I saw these YouTube videos where these dicks, because there's no other word, they go to Buckingham Palace and just taunt the royal guard. That's why I could not be a royal guard. Because if you came up tried to put an ice cream cone in my face or something, I would run that Armalite rifle with a bayonet through your freaking groin. It's like, leave these guys to do their job.
Kidding.
They're not toys. They're not teddy bears. They're not toy soldiers. They are actual soldiers. This is a very difficult job, and they have to stand their ground. But the guys are great when they go, stop back! And everyone, it's a big freaking joke, and people playing with the horses and that. Now, we're not talking about standing your ground physically like that. Yeah. We're talking about doing it emotionally, and I'm handing it to you now.
Yeah, I just need to caution you against YouTube's rules around acceptable speech. You know,
what are you talking about?
You're talking about stabbing someone.
No, this is a hypothetical.
Yeah, he's just kidding. They
don't use an Armalite rifle now anyway.
Yeah,
so
it's only
it doesn't count.
It's a fake.
We're talking about a movie we're making.
Plastic toy. Yeah, so this is all for entertainment purposes. Yes. No actual people have been hurt or will be hurt.
Can you tell how sharp my brain is with ketones since I'm fasting?
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. Great. All right, so that's the one strategy. In terms of well, there is no strategy. We haven't talked about strategy yet. Standing your ground. This came up in our community because one of our members was about to face a very uncomfortable conversation. Now, there's a couple of possible conversations that are uncomfortable, right? One can be you need to attempt to convince someone to do something that they don't want to do. And this strategy...
And we're not saying anything nefarious or coercion.
Right. This strategy can be useful for that, but is not a guaranteed result. So whereas the other end of the spectrum is when somebody wants you to do something that you do not want to do, now you're in full control because you can simply say no. But a lot of the times you need a way to say no without sounding like a dick because you could come across, well,
you want somebody doing the dick
chant. You're not very helpful, all that kind of stuff. If you don't want to do something and you don't want to come across that way, your agree and repeat strategy is freaking genius.
Well, it's not my own, but it is good.
Well, you combine two techniques that you explained to me years ago, right? Do you want to go through that?
Not really.
Okay, forget it. So the agree and repeat strategy, we'll just teach it because I think we haven't talked about this in a while. It's a great strategy.
Yes.
I learned this from you, Mike, when I was 19.
I learned it from Dr. Manuel Smith in the book, How to Say No and Not Feel Guilty or something like that.
Yeah. You said it was like a crap book or something. Different book. But it was like, there was one book you described as being kind of a crap book, but you only got one thing.
Yeah, that was the one written by the psychiatrist.
Oh, that was a different one. Yeah, that was a hypnosis
But he called it Fogging Broken Record. I call it agree and repeat.
Yeah, so not a crap book. It was good. Just to be very clear, I'm mistaken about that.
When I say no, I feel guilty. That's the name of the book. It's good book.
Okay, so the strategy is somebody says to you, I need you to whatever, fill in the blank. You want to say no, but you don't want to sound like a dick. Right. So all you do is you agree with them, as you say, in principle. Mm-hmm. In other words, you're claiming that you understand what they're asking, and we've shortened it to just saying something like understood. That's your one word. I understand in principle. I agree in principle.
You've honored what they've said now.
Yeah. However, I can't do that for you for whatever reason. You don't even have to give a reason.
I'm not doing it.
And I'm not. You're just saying no.
Right.
Understood. And no, I'm not available. No, I'm not willing
Use
to do
and
that.
If you don't like but. I would just say but, though. That's the original.
Now, what? So let's, you always have this... You have a hilarious example that you often teach about, some neighbor needs you to cut his lawn for him, mow his lawn or something like that.
No, the best one was when Paul Moyer and I were at Maple Leaf Gardens for a hockey game.
Okay.
And that one of the banks had a booth set up with these two gorgeous women in fairly low-cut dresses, and all the guys are like coming over there.
And they want you to sign up for their credit card.
And so they start giving their pitch to Paul. And I've taught him how to do this. And he says the first part, but he doesn't say the second part. It's too confrontational. So all he does is agree with them. So they give the pitch and he says, I know how you feel. They're looking at him. So they give the whole pitch again. And he says, I know how you feel. I said, but I don't want your credit card. I said, say the second part. You sound like a mental patient.
So the agree portion is...
I know how you feel.
I understand how you feel.
That makes sense.
I understand your request. I can see how that would be beneficial to you. Any variation of that where you're expressing an understanding of what they're asking. You're just repeating back to them in some way.
And then tell them
I know how you feel. You know, you make me really mad, and in order to deal with this, I need you to do this. I know how you feel, but I'm not going.
Yeah. It's real easy. You don't even have to be paying attention to do it. And the key is let them finish, don't interrupt them. And when you say this at the end, you'll delete all of their argumentation. And the great thing is you don't have to get mad. You will drain their negative emotions, and they will finally hear you for the first time.
Right. So somebody's saying, well, I need a discount because... whatever
I know how you feel, but we don't give discounts here.
Yeah.
Well, that's not fair. Understood, but we don't give discounts. Just keep saying it. How many times do I have to say it? A corporate clients paid me thousands of dollars to teach this stuff.
Yeah.
How many times do I have to say it? One more time than they do.
That's what you taught me when I was 19. You said that you just keep going through the cycle. You discharge their resistance, and eventually, something.
Well, this stuff really comes out.
Getting a phone call on my MacBook Air.
I know it's me.
Which is weird.
Scary.
Yeah, I know how you feel, but I'm not answering right now.
Hello.
So use this technique in any situation where somebody's trying to get you to do something and you need to say and want to say no. Just discharge the resistance.
Understood, but I'm not doing it.
Right. You can use it when you want someone else to say yes to you. I want X. They say, "Oh, sir, I can't let you check into this hotel room until 4 p.m. because that's our check-in policy."
I know how you feel, but I need to fold it. I need the room. Or I know how you feel, I need the discount.
Yeah.
You're probably right, but I need the discount. Or the simplest, understood. Or I understand. And then again.
Understood, but I really need to check in early today.
Understood, but I need an upgrade. Remember the guy through Neil Strauss's Society International? Neil's a good guy. He took me out for sushi in Toronto when he was here. I presented for him here in Whistler, BC, and in Hollywood,
California.
Yeah, and one of his guys, they posted online, they used to call it Mandeling someone.
Yeah, that's what they call it. It went viral.
He made over 10 grand or saved 10 grand just using this technique.
Yeah, I think one was a used car discount or something like that. And it was just, this is the price. I need you to do better than that. I'm sorry, sir. That's the best we can do. I know how you feel, but I still need a better deal.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. Or I know combining it with your other line, which I really like, you can say, understood, but I'll need you to do better than that.
No, that's a totally different thing. It's the 7 magic words. You'll have to do better.
I just combine them in this case.
And the flinch.
You'll have to do better than
combine
that. You
them.
Pause and you say, but can you combine it in your opinion? Understood, but I'll need you to do better than that.
Understood, but you can't combine them.
Okay. I think you can.
Right.
Yes.
But
there you go. Play around with it. Agree and repeat strategy.
Let's talk about the fair witness position.
What is
Which is the dissociation so you can discuss unpleasant things with someone else.
Oh, right.
So if somebody is having a really unpleasant conversation with you, they're either angry or it's something embarrassing and it's making you feel very uncomfortable, you immediately go into the fair witness position. Now, this comes from Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land. There were people who were called fair witnesses. When they had their robe on, they would be witnesses for discussions and all sorts of things because in the book, I think they had photographic memories and would then go into court and everything they said would be admissible in court.
Could you use this, what you're about to teach, in a, let's say, parenting situation where perhaps a child is not going to be particularly receptive to advice?
Why are you speaking so weirdly? It's just how can you not be having a breakdown?
Okay, there you go. Anyway,
I don't know what you mean. You got all Valley Girl.
Let's say somebody in any situation doesn't have to be a child, but let's say it's somebody that you're close to that tends to react in a not so helpful way to certain situations.
About my wife.
And there you go. And you want to offer some useful suggestions.
Okay.
And normally this person might blow up or not take it seriously or have every excuse in the book.
Very reactionary.
Yes. And you want to still have that fair witness deliver the mindset, deliver the information from a mindset of, I'm going to pass you this information.
And here's how easy it is. What you do is you immediately, in your mind, just practice as you get better with practice. It's only data. No matter how angry people get, it's only data. It's just words. They don't have to affect you. In your mind, just step outside the situation and just hear the data. And so you're looking at it from the outside. You dissociate from the stress. It's easy to do. I'm dissociated from him right now.
Yes, you are.
Just to test it.
Yeah.
But that way you dissociate. There's no negative emotion involved. You never interrupt. You let them finish and just do your talk.
In my mind, as you're teaching this right now, I'm thinking about,
tell them what you want to
let's say, so you deliver some information. The person has a bad reaction and they're directing their emotions to you, even though you're just a messenger, let's say.
Yeah.
And they're kind of going nuts, to use the medical term,
I've
right?
run into a lot of people like that.
In my mind, I just think, all right, I'm going to pretend that the me that's actually speaking is 2-3 feet behind, and they're directing their anger to this empty spot. And now I can sit back, third position, and I can just process that and go, okay.
That's good. I'll give you another alternative. This is my own original one. It's called the Monopoly alternative or the Monopoly intervention.
Oh, I like it.
It's the same thing. You just pretend, as soon as this conversation starts to get heated or weird, just put a Monopoly board between you and your mind or there, and just pretend you're negotiating for the property monopoly. It doesn't matter at all.
Just a game.
It's just a game.
Yeah, harmless. I like that. Okay.
Yep.
Fair
All right.
witness position. All right, let's move on to, we've got some, we wanted to talk about
self-work.
the value of self-work, because this is an interesting thing. We started talking about hypnosis is one thing we teach, but we also have a full program called the Personal Development Academy.
Yes.
And it's a lesser known program that we have. It's on our website, but most people come to us, of course, for hypnosis. But here's the thing. That all came out of actually years ago. Remember Dr. Matthias?
Yes.
He was the one years ago
in Boston
when we launched MMHA in 2013. And he said, oh, you need to market this to people who aren't just interested in hypnosis or NLP, because no one wants to say that word or whatever. But this is basically personal development stuff. And we thought, he's right. Everybody who learns hypnosis or anything really should still have a fundamental focus on personal development skills.
Of course.
Understanding communication, building up their schema with all kinds of awesome stuff to make their own lives better, whether or not they're doing hypnosis, which then begs the question, how could anybody justifiably say that they teach hypnosis without focusing on personal development?
I know. It's so foundational to us. And I'm just taking off the idiotic usual response for a moment here and giving you a serious ego state. But this is so foundational. Even when I presented HypnoThoughts Live, gave the keynote to all my peers, the point is do the self-work. That was one of my points.
Yeah.
Do the frickin' self-work. Deal with your own stuff, because by doing that, whether it's your physical well-being, your mental health, or your emotional well-being, do the work on yourself and you'll be a much better hypnotist.
Yeah.
You got to look into the abyss, as we say, and fix the stuff that's crappy.
I think I've had this realization that there's not just these two groups, but there are two potential groups of people we could identify that want to take hypnosis training with us. One is that classic, I want to learn hypnosis because I want to help other people with it. Wonderful. But the other group is, I want to learn hypnosis because I have a problem that I'd like to fix in myself first. And once that's fixed, I'd like to take those skills out to help others.
Work it out.
But that's starting with me, starting with my social anxiety, or I have an allergy I'd like to see if I can resolve.
I can help
you
with
have
both of those.
a phobia. Whatever it is, anxiety people will have. They want to fix their own problem and then carry out into the world as a better person.
That is correct.
And that is the heart of now what we're calling the Mandel method of hypnosis.
That's correct. Well put, Chris. I'm just going to mention quickly, because it's just so damn funny. What I used to say was there's only two kinds of people in the world. Those who divide people into two groups and those who don't. And I'm glad I'm not one of them.
That's right. I love that line.
All right.
Okay, so we wanted to give an example then, right? So why do we teach personal development? I think we just went through that. So let's give an example of somebody who wants to be more confident in any situation.
Right.
And you don't need any hypnosis. Gee, do you think there might be some built-in hypnosis here, though?
I wonder,
All right,
Chris.
so let's recap. We've talked about it before, but useful to repeat. What is the as-if frame, and how could somebody take that as-if frame, Mike, and use it in a situation where they want to feel more confident?
Okay, well, you get an example. Who's somebody who you see as supremely confident? Oh, you could pick Daniel Craig as James Bond, or, some woman like Margaret Thatcher, or whoever. It doesn't matter who it is. But if you get a model in your mind, think about it. How is that person more confident? How do they present themselves?
Yeah.
How do they stand? And then duplicate it. Stand as though you're confident. Breathe as though you're confident. If you were super confident, as we are, then you could do that. And by taking it on, acting as if you are super confident, pretending, guess what happens? It's almost like method acting or something. I don't know which type of acting it is. But the bottom line is, by conditioning it in, by doing it, by behaving that way, what's your internal dialogue or monologue?
Yeah.
How are you moving? How do you stand? All of that will create that state for you, and it begins to become normal. Another thing I would bring to the table here, we didn't discuss this the other day, which is a variation on column of excellence.
Oh, right. Yes.
So, you put the super confident person in this imaginary laser column of light. They're standing there and you're standing up and you're looking at it and they're behaving really confidently and looking amazing. Then you transform them to being you in that. This is one way of doing it. And it's you being really confident and powerful. And then you step into this imaginary column, breathe it all in, and then take on the as if frame.
Yeah.
And it's that stepping across the edge that brings that resolution to Dracula.
I remember working with a young boy who I used this technique to help him when he would get up to the batter's box for baseball.
Nice.
And not only did we do more or less what you described, but I also had him imagine the auditory music that would really charge him up, music that would get him in state to just be hitting those home runs.
Oh, that's nice.
It's a fun intervention.
That's nice. Remember when the Toronto Blue Jays in the 90s won the World Series twice
in a row?
Yeah. I think once by default because something went off the rails. But the bottom line was Kelly Gruber, great ball player, just lost his ability to hit. He could get, my grandmother could get hits off him and she's dead. And so I could see it. I watched. He was just anchored. He had negatively anchored. He'd come up to the plate. I wrote a personal special delivery confidential letter to Pat Gillick, who was the general manager. And I said, I know exactly what's wrong with Kelly Gruber and I can fix it. Never got back to me.
Of course you didn't hear back from him.
Never heard back.
All right. So the other thing we wanted to point out here, though, is to your point, as a frame, we've got physiology. So how you stand, how you're breathing, how you're moving, all of that.
What are your I am
and your internal dialogue. So what are you saying? What would you imagine that other confident person says to him or herself in that situation? And you mirror that, right? You step into it. Wonderful. So you can either use this on yourself or, and this is the beauty, this is where, what do you do inside of hypnosis? If you're working with a client, you put that client in trance. You'll need tools like this that you can deploy in that hypnotic trance. So you can have a client go through these experiences. It makes you a better hypnotherapist and hypnotist. Plus, it makes you better at fixing your own stuff.
Yeah, that's it.
So overall, that's it. That's why we wanted to
Well put, Chris. Well put.
Can you hypnotize a chicken, Mike?
It's a funny thing. People say, I saw somebody hypnotize a chicken. There are 3 animals that I know of that can be hypnotized, except it isn't hypnosis. Hypnosis is getting into that biofeedback psychodynamic loop with another human being where your thoughts, everything you're mirroring, you're matching, and walking them into trance. But with a chicken, people they put the chicken beak down, holding it on the ground, draw a chalk line away from its beak, hold it there for like 30 seconds and let go, and the chicken stays there. Now, the chicken is not hypnotized, but the rationale, at least some veterinary surgeons have said that the chicken now is so used to being held there, it now presumes it's held there and doesn't try to move. But if you snap your fingers or something, it'll suddenly go, oh shoot, and then it jumps up and starts clucking.
Will it go?
Yeah, it's totally harmless. Now, the other one is a lobster. If you turn a lobster upside down onto its claws and hold it like that on a table or something, it'll do the same thing. And the third one, I would never do. It's called akinesis, and it works with rabbits. And it's actually a cruel thing to do, so I would never do it. I'm not recommending this. I love animals. But if you hold a rabbit on its back in your arms, force it to have eye contact with you very, very closely, it triggers its freeze reflex to protect itself from predators.
Yeah, so that's a scary thing. That's not hypnosis.
It's not nice, but that is, again, it'll go into akinesis. And if you put it aside and give it a nudge, just nudge, it'll boing away and be okay.
Yeah.
But don't do this stuff.
I mean, that's almost like going into a psychiatric hospital and having a patient who will not talk or react or anything and saying, oh, he's hypnotized.
Yeah, people misunderstand. It'd be like me saying, a guy throws an inside punch at block catch lift, sweep his leg, take him to the ground, put a choke on him, the hook's in my feet, and put him into the Esdale state.
Yeah. Oh, he's hypnotized.
No, he done got dead.
All right. I think it is time for our special report.
I think it is,
Meaford,
Chris.
Ontario.
Hypno North.
Special report from Hypno North, Meaford, Ontario.
Yeah, how are you tonight? Thanks again. Well, it's your old pal Brado here on the iPhone 5, podcasting from the Great White North into Meaford, Shallow Lake, and parts of Owen Sound too now. Well, it's time to rejoice because the last of the snow is almost gone now, and the ducks and the dairy cows are doing okay too now that the mud's drying up, but still not exactly paradise up here as far as my life goes in the land of who gives a crap, but there's stuff to do like supply Billy Dials from the Red Rooster Diner with a good supply of wooden stakes to chase those 2 mullet-headed dicks next door and that. Actually, Billy's still in a trance, and I might as well leave him there, although Duder phoned and begged me to snap Billy out of hypnosis. But I got a better idea, and ideas are hard to come by up here in this godforsaken part of Canada. Anyway, I think I'm going to change things up because Billy's not eating at all since he started trying to kill Duder and Eddard, and he's getting on the thin side of gaunt, and he looks a bit undead himself, and they tried to build a sort of monastery-style sanctuary to hide out in out of a pile of those leftover human litter boxes from their last stupid idea. But Billy's smart and keeps smashing through the cardboard and the cat litter and the human waste and that, and they keep running, and because they're exhausted and Billy's determined to destroy them, he's getting closer all the time. So here's my idea. I'm going to re-hypnotize Billy and tell him he's Dracula now and get him to bite Eddard and Duder on the neck and drain their blood and that, which promises to be hilarious. So I'll let you know how it all works out. And it's your old friend Brado Stoker making life fun up here in the great northern Canadian Transylvania. So over and out, and if Eddard and Duder are listening, remember, the dead travel fast.
All right, we are back. Let's talk about self-hypnosis and the critical faculties.
Oh,
So we had a question about this.
well.
We had a question in the community, which was,
Can you bypass it?
Can you bypass the critical faculty with self-hypnosis, which of course requires now an explanation of what the heck is the critical faculty, Mike?
Well, the critical faculty is a construct, but it's the way the brain filters out certain information so that you do not become overwhelmed. You're taking in millions of bits of information, which is unconscious at any given moment, but only a few in conscious awareness. In order to depotentiate the conscious mind, when you're doing hypnosis, you have to get the critical faculty out of the way, distracted, made permeable, whatever. You've got to get past it. As you like the metaphor, and you told me this, I know it's from someone else, but it's a great one. Explain the bar.
Oh, it's Scott Sandlin's. It's Scott Sandlin's metaphor of a doorman who is preventing you from getting into the nightclub, let's say.
Right.
So you can make friends with him. You can distract him. You can sneak around him.
Yeah.
You can
Confuse him.
This is the idea.
So you got to get past the doorman. And when you do, then we have hypnosis. Well, of course, you can bypass the critical faculty doing self-hypnosis because it's hypnosis. And for hypnosis to work at all, you must get the critical faculty at least out of the way so your information get into the unconscious. And we believe the best way to do it is not bang your head on the wall saying, oh, I'm losing weight. I'm starting to lose weight. You're still using your conscious mind if you're doing that. We believe in giving an instruction to your unconscious. I'm going to hypnosis for approximately 20 minutes for the purpose of learning to lose weight faster, whatever. And when I awaken, I will either feel wide awake and ready for anything and energized, or tired and sleepy and ready for bed. Then you just do, you just do nothing but go into a trance. Just lie there or sit there, go into a trance, let your unconscious mind handle the entire thing, and your critical faculty will be dispensed with largely, at least well enough to get the suggestions.
It'll never be in the way. First of all, there is no actual critical faculty. Right. It's not in your brain in a specific spot that could be physically removed. You don't have a doorman in your brain.
This is where some dick will write to us.
Yeah,
there's no critical factor. Yeah. You can't prove it. And
it's just like
it's a model, guys.
There is
it's
no
a test of a model. Its usefulness. Yeah, there's no unconscious mind. You're eating the freaking menu if you write to us. You're in a restaurant eating the menu instead of the food. Don't write, or I'll do the chant. You heard me.
There you go. So if you're using self-hypnosis, we have a course, by the way, called Easy Self-Hypnosis.
Yes.
It's included in the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. And if you are at all interested in learning hypnosis, come to our website, MikeMandelHypnosis.com. You will see a link to sign up for a test drive. It's free. There's no credit card required to do it. And that doesn't give you the Easy Self-Hypnosis course, mind you. But anyway, when you become a member, you get that course.
Nice.
And so you put yourself in trance, but you're never giving yourself direct suggestions. You nicely sink into this comfortable trance, however you do it, and the more you practice it, the better you'll get at it. And then, Mike, are you ever giving yourself a direct suggestion? No, typically not. The closest you might come to it is if you do some sort of visualization around, let's say something happens that is not good in your life, and you imagine putting it over here on the left and putting it in the garbage can. It's just
you're not doing verbal suggestions
You're not
to self,
saying,
though.
I will not respond negatively to that situation anymore.
You're stressing me.
Yeah, exactly.
Well put, Christopher. Well put. Now, what about the person who wrote to us and said, I love learning hypnosis. I'm thoroughly enjoying your training, but I'm lacking confidence to help people. I think this person said they're currently at level 7.
I don't think this was someone in our academy yet.
I thought it was the person who said I'm at 7 lessons in.
Oh, it might have been. Yeah. anyway, we get variations of this question all the time. I'm learning hypnosis. If they're one of our students, that's usually, wow, your academy's so amazing. I have all this knowledge, but I'm lacking confidence to actually go out and help people. What should I do? And so we always say, well, skill is knowledge and
Application.
Experience, right? Applying it, right? I mean, I can't build custom kitchen cabinets if I don't understand measurements and theoretically understand how I should attach bits of wood to the wall.
Yeah. And repetition is the mother of skill. So we say, get into our practice rooms. We have practice rooms 24/7, very often supervised. You can jump into a practice room, be in a safe place to learn your skills, get with someone on the same lesson. The practice rooms give you the ability. Otherwise, it's like, I want to swim. I've read all these books about swimming, books about water and lake and ocean. You have to get in the freaking water and swim. There's no way around it.
All right, that's a great answer.
Thanks, buddy.
Really,
I'm going to let you answer the last one.
Yeah, so the other one, last question we want to answer was from a person who asked, what does it feel like to be in hypnosis?
Wow.
And this is the kind of question that could have a very long answer or a very short answer.
I will recommend you go short.
I'm going to go to the short answer, obviously. What does it feel like to be in hypnosis? Well, what does it feel like to be really absorbed in a movie? What does it feel like to be caught up in a conversation or perhaps this podcast? It feels like everyday life.
Yeah.
This is happening to you all the time. So if you ever catch yourself, I know that the other line we say is, what does it feel like to be in hypnosis? Close your eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. Open your eyes.
I think it's Jason
that's what it feels.
Yeah.
I think it's Jason who's done that. And that's a great answer
It is
too.
a great
But I like this answer better. You're doing it all the time. So how about instead of asking what it feels like, wouldn't it be better to observe what you feel like when you notice that you're really caught up in something?
Sure,
if you're
be driving at night on the highway,
if you're reading a book, if you're listening to smooth jazz driving down the highway, if you're having a fascinating conversation with someone, and the key criteria is that your attention is fully in some experience.
Technically, that's a criterion.
Criterion, there you go. That's right. Criteria is plural. Thank you, Mike. All right.
That's why I'm here.
That's why we pay you the big bucks. Do that. And then let us know. Comment, email us. Let us know, what does it feel like for you? Because you're doing it all the time. You're just calling it this different thing, hypnosis, that seems foreign to you. It is a normal thing.
It's from the mythology, Chris, that if you're hypnotized, it's like you've had, been breathing nitrous oxide and you're unconscious and you had ketamine injections and you don't know what the hell's going on. It's seldom like that. It can be with people.
Yeah.
It can be a wide variety of different responses, but there's no specific hypnotic feeling. And I would see this all the time when I had my practice from 1992 to 2000. 93. People would say stuff like, well, I don't think it worked. I heard everything you said. I don't think I was hypnotized. I say, just wait for the results. They still get the results. The results are the evidence that it frickin' worked, not how they felt. All right. Let us go now, Chris. We have
an empowering question.
And then I have the wonderful metaphor.
We've gone overtime on this podcast.
Yes, we
but
have.
It was fun.
Yes, it
All right. And the next one we record will be with Timothy September live in the studio. We'll have to do like a tag team one as well.
For sure.
We're going to record that one. That'll be out later in June. All right. So here's your empowering question for episode 256. Now that you've listened to this podcast, if you were fleeing Billy Dials because you thought he was Dracula, would you hide up in Meaford or move to Shallow Lake?
Brilliant. Let me tell you the story of the ham sandwich. I've spoken many times. This is a Metafive, one better than a metaphor. I've spoken many times about my parents' eccentricities, especially my father's. And my mom and dad would say things in a sort of a Lancashire, Yorkshire accent. And they had this power to trail off as they went on quietly, just the end of this. And you couldn't hear what they were saying. And they couldn't tell that other people couldn't hear them. Now, when they're talking to people who aren't from Lancashire or Yorkshire, they didn't understand them either. I remember being with my mother in San Diego in 1970. I was a 17-year-old kid. We were both in a taxi. And she wanted to go to this restaurant in San Diego. I don't even know if it's still there. It was called Anthony's. Now, as you know, Brits pronounce the TH in Anthony like a T. So Anthony Jacquin is actually Anthony. Anthony Jackson. Jacquin. But what happened is Peter Jackson, the director. So what happened was this. My mom would say Anthony, but she'd get quieter. So she'd go, Anthony, like that. And so we're in the cab, and he said, where do you want me to take you, ma'am? She said, I want to go to Anthony's. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't tell you. She said, Anthony's. And she's dropping the last two syllables. You must have said it 200 times before. And oh, you mean Anthony's? Yeah. My dad was even worse. He would order a ham sandwich in a restaurant, a truck stop in Ohio. And I know because he actually did this. And he wouldn't say ham sandwich. He'd say a full sentence that was always identical. He'd say, I'd like a sliced ham sandwich. He's saying sliced. He adds the word sliced every time. What are they going to cut a piece off a pig and put it on if he doesn't say that? And the waitress said, sorry, I didn't hear you, sir. He said, I like a sliced ham sandwich. And he's saying sandwich as well. What do you want? And he never changed. This is an NLP lesson or hypnosis lesson. The meaning of a communication is a response it elicits.
Yeah.
If the response is confusion, change your communication until you get the right response. And she said, sorry, sir, what is it? I'd like a sliced ham sandwich. Over and frickin' over. Why couldn't he just point at it in the menu? And after maybe 60 trillion times saying this, the woman finally goes, oh, you want ham? Yeah, that was it. You wonder why, as a child, I thought, I'm going to rip my hair out because of my parents. It frickin' happened.
Any winkles?
Any winkles
Don't
today.
start. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Brain Software Podcast with this guy, Mike Mandel, and me, Chris Thompson. We run Mike Mandel Hypnosis. The best thing that you can do if you want to be an awesome person who helps yourself and helps others is join the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. You can check it out on our website. You can start with a free trial. And we would love it if you would drop a comment on the YouTube video or send us an email. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about on this podcast. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks again. And
Loochie.
Loochie.